To note, the town board did open our session today at 6:30 for the purposes of interviewing candidates for the independent auditor to the town. So with that, do I have a motion to return from executive session?
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilwoman Bettina. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. With that, I would invite everyone to join us in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. That'll be followed by an invocation by our friends at Hindu Samaj, and then a moment of silent meditation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please stay standing. Please come up to the podium.
ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः विषेम देवहितं यदायुः पृथिवी शान्तिरन्तरिक्षगुं शान्तिर्द्यौः शान्तिर्दिशः शान्तिरवान्तर दिशाः शान्तिरग्निः शान्तिर्वायुः शान्तिरादित्यः शान्तिश्चन्द्रमा शान्तिर्नक्षत्राणि शान्तिरापः शान्तिरोषधयः शान्तिर्वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्गौः शान्तिर्ब्रह्म शान्तिर्ब्राह्मणः शान्तिः शान्तिरेव शान्तिः शान्तिर्मे अस्तु शान्तिः Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May peace radiate there in the whole sky as well as in vast ethereal space everywhere. May peace region all over this earth in water and all herbs, trees and creepers. May peace flow over in the world universe. May peace in the supreme region Brahman, and may there always exist the all peace and peace alone. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you again to our friends at Hindu Samaj here in the town of Wappinger on Brown Road. We greatly appreciate your presence here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to acknowledge the minutes of February 10th and March 3rd?
Make that motion.
Moved by Councilman Phillips,
Second.
second by Councilman Casella. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Do I have a motion to open the public portion of our agenda?
I'll move it.
Motion, second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilwoman Bettina. All in favor? Aye. Folks, if you'd like to speak on our agenda, you have 3 minutes. We ask that you state your name and address for the record, and we ask that you come to the podium.
Hi, my name is Petra Manel. I live at 10 Dean Avenue, and I simply have a question about the comprehensive plan.
Absolutely.
We understand that changes will be made to it. It is fairly old. However, that concept plan in there to make, in Houstonville, make it a, whatever, split up the road, that has cost us dear since we saw it. We would like to know whether that is still the plan.
So no, I can tell you that I do not believe that is the intent of anyone on this town board. When that comprehensive plan was adopted, there was a very rigorous and in-depth investigation and planning process that went into it. And what Ms. Manel is referencing is a plan that was outlined in the comprehensive plan to basically create a artery bypass around the Houstonville hamlet. That is not something that we have in our plans and vision for the town. It's not something that New York State DOT has in their vision for the town, as that would have probably come into play with the recent development in Houstonville. So I can tell you that, again, that was a conceptual thought that was developed through the Comprehensive Plan Committee to create that artery there. It is not something that is intended to be acted upon by the town board.
Okay, very good, thank you. Will we, the public, be able to comment on whatever the plans are that are going to be put in?
Absolutely. And again, Ms. Manel, for your gratification, we did do a roundtable discussion in our senior center not too long ago, which we engaged the public on. That was the first process in gaining the town board's collective vision, as well as the public's, in 2 amendments to the comprehensive plan. We're looking at infrastructure and we're looking at housing. All right, this is not an entire comprehensive plan overhaul. This is simply 2 chapters that we're looking to amend at this point in time. Again, depending on what the town board feels, we would apply for some sort of grant funding in the future to then later overhaul the comprehensive plan from A to Z. But that is not what this process is. What we are looking to do is, again, amend 2 chapters, housing and infrastructure, as those are very pressing issues right now in the town.
Okay,
And of course, we welcome your comments.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Minot. Would anyone else like to comment on agenda items?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Bettina, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Thank you very much. With that, I'd like to call up the planner to the town board, Chris Spencer from the LaBerge Group, to lead us in a presentation on some updates and potential revisions to the comprehensive plan based off of our earlier roundtable discussion that we had not too long ago. If you unplug the laptop, yep, you can plug that one in right there.
There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. My name is Chris Spencer. I'm with the LaBerge Group and the project manager for this. And again, what we're doing here is really looking at the comprehensive plan. It's been a long time since anything's been done, and a lot has happened here in Wappinger. So we want to really make sure that we're addressing some of those issues and then looking at some of the other zoning issues that may go along with that to make sure that the zoning is in fact in compliance with the comprehensive plan. So we're really going to talk a little bit about what we've heard so far throughout the town and through the board, what we've seen as we look through the comprehensive plan and some of the other land use laws, what we found out in doing that, and then really taking a look at the comp plan goals and some of the zoning issues that we've discovered as we go through this. So really what a comprehensive plan is, it's really this shared vision of the community. It's everybody's aspirations and what the town wants to be. It sets the framework for all the different town plans that happen, all the different things that go on in the town. It is your guide for change. It allows you to change, to stabilize, to look at different areas. And it really lays the groundwork. It becomes that foundation for policy making. So the comprehensive plan in and of itself is not policy. This is not zoning. It's not any of those things. It's really setting the stage for all of that. And in a lot of ways, it becomes sort of the to-do list of the town. It sets all of these goals and different strategies and objectives and action items. So that's kind of what a comprehensive plan is. A lot of people get really wrapped up in thinking that the comprehensive plan is the law, that they have to change everything, all the zoning within the plan. So again, it's really that framework that it's setting up. So I'm just going to go through a number of the goals that were in different sections of it. And really what we've been looking at is really what parts of the goals have been sort of achieved or there's been some progress on, and whether or not that goal is something that really should be carried forward. So this is based on some of the feedback we received with some questionnaires that we put out. So again, I'm trying to keep it very simple, but those bars on the top. So that top one is really, have you achieved the goal or made some major progress with it? The bottom one is it something that you want to carry forward? So if it's dark blue, that means yes, you've achieved it. And if it's a light blue, it just means, in this case, that you don't want to carry it forward. or that it's probably, there's not a lot of support for moving it forward. So this one is just on population. It's just the overall goal, which is to improve housing choices in the town by encouraging a balance of housing types and sizes that meets the need of the existing and future Wappinger residents and employees. So this is really, you know, there's been a lot of progress in that, in the goals that were, in things that were set forward in the 2010 plan. A lot of progress has been made. Whether there's really a need for the affordable housing, workforce housing, encouraging a sufficient supply of homes within economic reach of town residents. Again, there you sort of see where we are on that one right now. Population, really looking at accessory apartments. Is that something that, there's been a lot of progress, a lot of accessory apartments were built, and then, you know, whether that's a goal that moves forward or not in this new plan is something that we'll be looking at. The variety of housing types, looking at larger developments to find out whether they should be comprised of a variety of housing types, attached single-family homes, duplexes, and apartments. So, you know, in a lot of cases, the zoning has allowed for single-family homes, but then to group them into single-family, duplex, triplex, quads, and really under the zoning, that then becomes really multifamily housing. That meets the strict definition of multifamily housing. So a lot of times there were things that were in the plan that were also in the zoning that inadvertently created multifamily housing. So that's something we'll be looking at. Development in existing town centers. This is about encouraging new higher density in existing centers that meets the roads, utilities, and community facilities. So we're looking at the infrastructure as well, as the supervisor noted. So again, you have this growth, but have you had the infrastructure growth and capacity to meet that growth? So those are very important things. It's great to have growth, but if you can't accommodate it, it really creates more issues for residents than it solves. This is just about variety of architectural styles, encouraging a variety of styles such as colonial arts and crafts, modern, contemporary. Again, there's been a lot of changes in there, and it seems like it's something that probably as a goal should probably move forward as well. It's just, you know, it's not a mandate, but it's creating that, those opportunities for that to happen. And the economic base is really about encouraging the balanced economy with the diversified employment opportunities. That's something that you've made a lot of progress on, and you want to continue working in that direction. Promoting regional cooperation. I know the supervisor works very hard on that. We're working with other communities around here, working at a regional level. That's something that's a very important goal. There's been great progress, and that's something that probably should carry forward. Improving the business opportunities within the framework of the community character and appearance. It's great to have economic development, but you want to make sure that it's something that's right for Wappinger. You want to make sure that it feels right, that it's part of what your community is looking for. Well-designed office research parks. You know, again, there was probably not a lot of that happened, and it's probably might not be something that you want to carry forward because there really are not a lot right now in terms of the demand for office parks. There just really isn't. There's been a huge glut of office space within the whole community, across the state, across the nation, really. Water supply and sewage treatment, and this is probably one of the big issues. Continuing the development of a system that addresses the needs of the developed areas, but not just the developed areas, those that are getting developed, but really making sure that it has the capacity for those houses that are already here to be able to hook up, to make sure that it has the capacity, that excess capacity should there be an emergency. So it's not just a zero sum in terms of the overall capacity, really making sure that you have that reserve in there. Extending the utilities to the lowest cost. So you don't want to spread out those utilities really far. So you want to concentrate the number of uses per linear feet. That's always just sort of economics 101 when it comes to those kind of utilities. Encouraging the public involvement in the planning and decision making. And then overall, this is just on the land use, guiding the development of the town in a way that preserves environmentally significant features, improves housing choices, encourages a balanced economy. Good work in this. A lot of progress has been made, and this is a goal that makes a lot of sense to move forward. Designating areas of the town intended for low-density residential development, farmland protection, and open space. Very important for a town to consider its open space, that not every square acre gets developed. Again, trying to make sure you're preserving those community characters that people want to have. designating areas of the town that are well situated for medium and high-density residential development, making sure you know where that's going to happen, not that, so it doesn't happen everywhere if that's happening. Designating areas that, due to the transportation links, the intensity and proximate land uses and other features, are appropriate for the current and future uses town centers. Again, whether you want to continue growing town centers or designating new town centers doesn't seem like something right now that makes a lot of sense based on the overall infrastructure and the capacity that the town has. Designating areas of the town where only commercial, industrial, institutional land uses are appropriate. Again, creating those areas where that makes sense, so it doesn't happen in everybody's neighborhood, and all those things aren't happening all over Wappinger. So I'm going to switch gears here a little bit and just talk about zoning, because I think, the goals are important, but we really have to get to what happens on the ground, what really gets built, what are the issues that are happening right now. So when you think about zoning, one of the hallmarks of zoning was trying to guard against incompatible uses. Nobody wants their house right next to a factory, or doesn't want to build a house and then have a factory get built right next door. So that's always been a sort of hallmark of zoning throughout the United States. But another thing that's really important about zoning is predictability. Creating predictability, not just for somebody who wants to come in and build something or invest, but for somebody who makes that decision, who puts everything on the line to buy a house, to put down the roots. For most people, that is the largest financial investment you'll ever make, is buying your home. And creating that predictability to know that if you buy a house, you know what can happen next door. That's what zoning would tell you. You live in a single-family district, can you build a grocery store next door? Can you build a missile silo or whatever it is? We really want to have those rules in place so people can understand it and they can feel comfortable, and that stabilizes those property values. So in the zoning, there's a use table, and in this use table, it really talks about that no building, premises, or anything can be used, erected, other than the uses that are specifically noted. And then it says all other uses shall be deemed to be prohibited. So that means whatever's in the use table is really what you should be able to go by. And here's a look at the use table. I know you guys can't read that, but that's not as important. But when you do look at the use table, you should be able to rely on that. And in this use table, this is on residential uses. And it says that in all those districts, the R5A, R3A, all those, the one that I just highlighted says multifamily dwellings. It's blank, which means it's prohibited, right? But then you go a little further, and then you have, you can convert a single-family home if it's more than 3,000 square feet. Then you have this 240-50, which is a design residential development, which allows all sorts of other stuff to happen. So that's where it gets tricky. But then it's also not even noting the PUDs, conservation development, open space, all sorts of other things that are in there that's not even, you're not even knowing about that.
Loopholes.
Yeah. So if you're looking at that investment, you're sort of feeling like, oh, geez, I didn't know this was going to happen. So a multifamily is pretty straightforward. It's permitted in the residential multifamily 5, RMF 5, and RMF 3. Those are 2 areas. So here's a map that shows those are sort of those light tan areas. That's the multifamily area. So that, you should feel that that's about where it's going to happen. But it can also happen in any of the mixed use areas, albeit at a lower density. But here's all those, this is the HB, the, general business, all this neighborhood business, all those different mixed use areas can also have it. As long as they don't exceed 3 dwellings per net lot area of residential. So, but again, you can put that all in one area. So all those darker ones now could also have multifamily, and they can also have business, which makes a lot of sense. But again, so now you're in that other area that has multifamily. So then you have multifamily conversions. So this allows the conversion of an existing large residential structure to a family, to a 2-family or multifamily dwelling. So that you move in, and then there's this beautiful house next door that's 3,000 square feet. You got to know what could happen with that. So what are the rules? Got to be more than 3,000 square feet. The minimum lot area is 4,000. one dwelling unit for every 20,000 square feet of lot area. Each dwelling has to be at least 800 square feet, which is pretty good size for an apartment. But then when you get further in, it says parking shall be provided as set forth in Article 10. Well, what does that mean? That means a 4,000 square foot house could provide for 5 apartments based on that 800 square feet. If it had 5 apartments, that's 12 and a half parking spots or 3,000 square feet of parking area or impervious surface. So that's a lot of area. That is really, I would say, not conducive, not compatible with a single-family residential neighborhood. Wow. But that's what can happen. Then you have the multifamily PUDs, 240-39, the planned unit development. These are all good ideas, but then a lot of times it's really the devil's in the detail. What does that really mean? So in this case, you have to have 75 acres. But it has to be near or adjacent to a non-residential zone district, so residential and non-residential, so next to a commercial district, right? So then all you got to do is have that 75 acres and then adjoin one parcel within that district. But, as you can see here, the town board can consider less. So now you have another yes, but maybe, or even less. So now, what does that mean? What does less mean? I don't know. 75 acres? 20 acres is certainly less. So then what happens once somebody develops that? They have this property adjacent to a commercial area. They end up buying that lot, so now they have that, and they have another 50 acres. Now guess what? That whole thing becomes a multi-use district. So now everything that touches that could conceivably become the same thing. And then I just want to talk a little bit about modification of requirements. So this just means, this is kind of like where you don't meet the regulations, but either the town board or the planning board can change the regulations. Again, we were talking about predictability and certainty. This does not create a lot of predictability for somebody when they're looking at this. So at 240-19, the planning board is authorized to modify the zoning regulations with respect to the lot area and the dimensions. 240-19B, at the request of the applicant, the planning board may modify the zoning regulations in a one-family districts. 240-19 for the open space plan, the planning board can waive the dimensional regulations. 240-39, which is the POD, again, 75 acres are required. The town board can consider less. So there's all this back and forth, and you don't really know what's happening. So what makes a lot of sense, and when you're doing those kinds of things, is to put sort of an administrative adjustment. You allow maybe those boards to adjust it by a certain amount, but anything beyond that goes for a variance, and then that variance actually has to, and the zoning board has to actually follow the rules set forth in New York State for what are the standards for a variance. And I think if you actually follow those, you don't see as many, and they have to look at the least amount of variance necessary. So if you wanted, you're required 60,000 square foot lots, they shouldn't be allowing you to come down to 20,000. Maybe a slight adjustment because of some other particulars with the land. Then this is a 240-50. This is the design residential development. So these parcels are supposed to be in a land that are adequate of size to accommodate 100 building lots or 50 if they have sewer and water. So again, these can be in a single family residential district, but the permitted uses are one family, multifamily, schools, places of worship, private golf, country clubs, retail, personal service, office uses. So pretty much everything other than industrial uses from what I can tell. So these can happen anywhere provided you have that area. But you can also combine lots. You can have multiple owners so long as they're all listed on the development proposal, but at some point they actually have to be combined, but it can be multiple lots. So one of the things that happens a lot when you're doing these PUDs, or any kind of cluster development, is you're saying, this is an area where normally you need 3 acres per lot, but we're gonna allow you to go to 20,000 square feet, but you can't have more than you would if you were developing at 3 acres, which seems to make a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. But if you don't do that and do an actual conventional yield, meaning what would that property really accommodate? Then what you're doing is you're giving away a lot of density. So in this one, I just did a real quick example of, let's say the requirement was 100 acres. I looked at the R5, the R3, the R80, the R20, R10. So there's the yield for each one. So in that, just strict math, R5, 20 lots, R3 is 33, all the way down to R10, which would be 435 lots, right? But then you start to think about what is the lot width, how much road frontage is that, what is the right-of-way, what is the right-of-way linear feet, how many acres does that roadway take up, what is the new yield, then just imagine now you've got some wetlands. So let's say you got 30 acres of that, 15 acres of steep slope, you're gonna have to have some drainage, and then you figure out what it really would be in that. So in this particular case, if you added all those other things, the R5 only accommodates 10, all the way down to the R20, which is 89, and the R10 would be 165. That would be really what it could accommodate. So if you're clustering, that should be all that you're getting. But if you're allowing people, if you're allowing people to bypass that and just say, we're going to go based on you've got X number of square feet or acres, therefore you can accommodate this much. So you're well over 200% if you go in that direction in terms of the increase in density that is appropriate for that land. And a lot of that is based what your sewer and water infrastructure is based on. So I think those are important things to make sure you get right, that if you're doing any kind of a cluster, that it goes through that process. And it's not just somebody gives you a list. You have to have an engineered drawing that is drawn out showing exactly how the roadway would be, how much drainage do you need, where are the wetlands, where are other constraints on that, and then you actually show how that works and you figure out how many lots you could really get. Because some of these lots are constrained from the beginning anyway, because you can't get to the back because there's so much wetlands. But there may be some suitable land back there, but you can't get to it. So again, that's really important to think about that. So I just want to kind of wrap this up and just talk again, go back to look at that map, look at those multifamily zones. Then we add in the mixed use. And then we add in all these PUDs and all these other things, and you start to look at something like this. And then you look at all of the land that right now is in the property class code is vacant or underutilized, and it starts to look like that. And what you're not capturing here is all those other lots that could then be combined, that could meet all of those requirements. So in this, for the design residential development, we looked at every single zoning district. If it was an R20, we had to find a lot that could accommodate 100 lots, or 50 if it had public sewer and water. So that really becomes, a huge difference between what you think is multifamily within the town of Wappinger. So I think those are things that we have to look at. We have to look at the sewer and water capacity. I don't think there's been a town road that's been built or widened since 2010, other than that specifically serves the development.
Yep.
So, I don't think that your schools have expanded to create all this new development. I don't think that you have emergency services can continue to handle all those kinds of things. So that's, while it's good to grow, you have to grow responsibly, and you have to make sure that you have those facilities, you have all of that, you have all your infrastructure in place. So that's where we are right now. That's sort of our findings at this point, and we'll be coming back, giving you some more information in terms of where we think, makes sense, what zoning really should look like, and really what are the goals that need to be carried forward in the comprehensive plan, what are some new goals that should be added, what are the reasons for that, what's the rationale. Again, we look back from the 2010, there was some really good rationale for the multifamily, but you've achieved all of that.
Yes.
And more.
Yes.
So I think you have to really look at what's right for the town at this point, so.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you have some
I
questions.
greatly appreciate this, because this map right here, folks, speaks volumes. It's something that we've been talking about for at least maybe 3 years. I know my colleagues on the town board as well, that we have a legitimate concern here. The town of Wappinger is the smallest geographical town in this county, and yet is the second most densely populated town in this county. Our housing ratio as it stands today is 60% single family, 40% multifamily. And as Mr. Spencer just very eloquently detailed here tonight, we have met those goals significantly. And something that we have said time and time again, our residents' greatest investment is their home. And you buy a home with the certainty of the zoning in that area, to know that if you're buying in a single-family zone, you're going to potentially have single-family behind you, not potentially have high-density multifamily, not potentially have unknown uses like gas stations, missile silos, as you mentioned. You buy in an area to know the zoning. And again, this map here continues to haunt me, honestly, that this is the reality of many of our neighbors right now as it stands, and this is why we have a moratorium and we are amending the comp plan. I would open it up to any questions and comments from my colleagues, but I do think that this was a very telling synopsis of your findings.
The abutting law or rule is extremely concerning. You know, you can have these, but if you have 100 acres butting up to one of these, that just expands that map greatly. So that's concerning. And like you said, the density problem, because as applicants normally do, they push the boundaries and they assume if they have 100 acres, they can, like R40, build 100 homes.
Right.
And that's not always the case, because if you only have 50 buildable acres, you should only use the buildable acre count. So thank you for addressing that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And thank you again for noting on the resources that we have in our community. You know, the fixed assets like water and sewer, fixed assets like our 100% volunteer fire districts, you know, that are fighting for the same pool of volunteers in this town and could potentially have to go out and deal with much greater situations if some of these densely populated proposals are built.
Yeah,
So thank you
and
for
again,
noting those as
you're
well.
fighting a fire in a multi-family, huge complex is a lot different than a single-family home. So again, when you start creating more and more of those, it requires different equipment, different training, different personnel, and it does get complicated pretty quick.
Thank you. Any other comments from the town board?
Just puts a lot of extra pressure on our infrastructure too, and that's a problem too, water, sewer, et cetera. So we just have to make sure we manage it. When they did the original comprehensive plan, we had, you know, finite amount of water. You allocated some of it out. Now you don't have that same amount of water. So when they started doing these developments way back when, as an example, Regency, they had a certain amount of water they were allocating. They built a little more. So again, you have a finite amount of resources and infrastructure. So we need to take that into account, because that'll take away from some of the potential development and things up there as well on that map.
Right, and I think the other point too is that you have a certain amount, and you looked at what the existing development already has, but not all of that existing development has had a chance to tie in.
Correct.
So now if you take that capacity away from them, now they have no
Exactly.
opportunity to do that. And I know you guys have experienced some breakage and some lines going out in certain areas, and you have to have that excess capacity to be able to accommodate.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
very much, Mr.
Thanks,
Spencer.
Chris.
We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
With
Are we
that-
going to get this?
Yes,
We'll get a copy of the
you
presentation.
will get a copy of the presentation.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along to our consent resolutions. Resolution 2025-59, resolution introducing local law 2025, amendment to Chapter 50, Records, and Chapter 68. Resolution 2025-60, resolution for Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad New York Scenic Byway nomination. Resolution 2025-61, resolution accepting donation to Wappinger 150 Summer Concert Series. Resolution 2025-62, resolution accepting the resignation of Personnel Administrator in the Town Comptroller's Office. Resolution 2025-63, resolution accepting donation to Wappinger 150. Resolution 2025-64, resolution accepting donation to Parks and Recreation Department, Summer Camp Division. Resolution 2025-65, resolution awarding contract for annual maintenance of Rockingham Park Pond. Resolution 2025-66, resolution awarding contract for annual maintenance agreement for Yield Apple Orchard Pond. Resolution 2025-67, resolution appointing clerk to the Justice. Resolution 2025-68, appointing full-time groundskeeper in the Buildings and Grounds Department. Resolution 2025-69, resolution authorizing replacements and enhancements to the Town of Wappinger War Memorial at Brexel Schlotthaus Park. Resolution 2025-70, resolution authorizing costs incurred through Executive Order 2025-1 and 2025-2. Resolution 2025-71, authorizing survey of town-owned easements.
On this, can you just answer a question on this? I have no problem with it, but these are currently easements we own,
Correct.
and what is our intent to do with them?
Potentially
Because
list them
usually, if things are abandoned, we get them.
So we would be, if you allow me to read through the rest of this list, we'll get to the discussion.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that.
Awesome.
All right. Resolution 2025-72, resolution authorizing execution of dog control housing agreement. Resolution 2025-73, resolution authorizing the Town of Wappinger to initiate requests for qualifications of records management grant project. And Resolution 2025-74, correspondence log. Do I have a motion for discussion?
So moved.
I'll
Moved
second.
by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. On the discussion for Resolution 2025-71, the Highway Superintendent sent me a letter listing a number of these easements throughout the Town of Wappinger. Right now, these are easements that were dedicated to the town, whether they were roadway spurs to be potentially built for future development, potential easements for water and sewer, whatever they may be. On the same token, our Town of Wappinger Code Enforcement Office goes and enforces property restrictions and violations on these easements, many of which were deeded to the Town of Wappinger well over 60 years ago. The Town Highway Department has recommended that we abandon some of these easements as we have no intent of building them, and many of which run through random pieces of property, especially the ones actually in my neighborhood up on Pine Ridge and Cedar Hill, where entire roadways were laid out, named, such as Locust Drive off of Pine Ridge, deeded to the town, and they still exist, which cause much confusion and issues amongst neighbors. The idea behind this was to, first of all, get a survey of these easements as they stand today. We would then get back those reports to know the true geographical areas, the meets and bounds of each property, and then it would be up to the town board whether or not we would like to sell these easements or deed these easements to the adjoining property owners. For example, Councilman Casella, in your neighborhood, Royal Ridge, there are a number of spurs that come out through people's properties. And the logical idea would be they currently mow those properties, they currently maintain those properties, deed them to either side of the property owner. Same thing in Fleetwood neighborhood along Cretch Circle, we have a number of those, where again, our code enforcement office spends countless hours telling residents, look, that's not your property, you can't maintain that. And then our town highway department has to spend countless time, as well as taxpayer dollars, cutting down trees that fall on neighbors' properties, and so on and so forth. So the idea was, at the recommendation of council and our town assessor, was to retain a surveyor to fully understand the meets and bounds of these properties, and then move forward from there.
So we're going to allocate up to $15,000 for that?
Correct.
Okay.
Seeing no further discussion on the consent agenda, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much, folks. Moving along to the non-consent agenda. Resolution 2025-30, resolution appointing certified public accountants to provide various accounting services and to audit the accounts of the town supervisor, the town clerk, and our town justices. Do I have a motion?
So I'll make a motion to approve RBT as our certified public accountants.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilwoman Bettina. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Resolution 2025-50, Town of Wappinger Policy for Improvements to Municipal Policy. Do I have a motion?
50? I don't have that.
What number was that?
What was the
Dash
motion?
50, that was laid on the dais last time by Councilwoman Bettina.
Oh,
Oh, you mean the, thank you, sorry. Mr. LaCory?
We need to have a motion and a
I make a
second.
motion to,
Moved by
Yes.
Councilwoman Bettina.
This
it's getting the building.
this is for the building permits for the town.
Yes.
Isn't that a new requirement anyway, based on,
It's
I think you said December
Based on town
2024?
law.
Right, 2024, New York State passed that law, Mike?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it's a simple, easy to pass then. So did you make a motion to, Angela, to approve?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Second by
Thank
Councilman Casella. Any further discussion on the resolution?
No.
I will just give a context that, as was noted, the New York State Legislature did pass a law requiring municipalities to obtain building permits, as we always do in this town, and we will continue to do on projects as necessary moving forward. So there is a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much.
And I think this will help the departments work better together also. Buildings and grounds, our building department, I think it just builds a better relationship. Not that it can't be improved, all relationships could be improved. So going forward, I hope that's what happens.
I'm sure it will.
I hope so.
Resolution 2025-76, resolution appointing town comptroller, the town of Wappinger. Do I have a motion for discussion?
Motion.
Moved by
Motion.
Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. For discussion, I would like to move the name of Daniel Tucker, and he shall be paid an annual salary of $130,000 per year, as budgeted.
Do we have a start date for him?
We do not yet,
Okay.
Soon.
but soon.
He
He is currently in the process of crafting a budget in the current municipality he is with, and we will allot him that time as well as splitting that time with the town of Wappinger.
Yeah, so they have a different fiscal period, so they're in the middle of theirs right now.
Yeah, no, I understand. I have no objection if he can do, part-time work
Yeah,
and transition in.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. We had a
Make a motion, we
and-
approve.
Yep. All in
Approve.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. It'd be nice to have a comptroller again. Resolution 2025-77, resolution authorizing purchase of equipment for the town of Wappinger Recycle Center. Do I have a motion for discussion?
I'll make that motion. Second it.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. For discussion, I'd like to provide the town board with a brief presentation that was provided to them via email, but I think it's also good for the residents to understand the same
Proposal.
proposal and concept that we're thinking about. So I'm going to come down below and lead a little presentation.
Okay.
So, folks, by way of background on this resolution, the town of Wappinger obviously currently operates a town of Wappinger Recycle Center for our residents to enjoy for casual household dumping in the town. Currently, we are contracted with a vendor, which continues to rise in cost. That vendor currently carts our garbage from the town of Wappinger Recycle Center to the Dutchess County Resource Recovery Center up in the town of Poughkeepsie, essentially serving as a middleman from our facility to another facility. The crux of this resolution here tonight is to authorize the supervisor, myself, and the highway superintendent to purchase a roll-off truck that will effectively perform that carting duty and eliminate the third-party vendor. As you can see here on this graph, our current vendor continues to rise in cost. The last time that this was entertained was 2022, so I readily had the data that the cost per ton from this vendor has rose significantly from $257 per ton to $351 per ton. Whereas if we were to purchase this truck, operate as the hauler ourselves, you can see here that the Dutchess County number has stayed almost flat, going from $98 in 2022 to $112 per ton in 2025. Dutchess County does not charge a permit for us to haul our garbage up to the Dutchess County Resource Recovery Agency, and neither does the New York State DEC. So we would obtain all the necessary permits needed for this project. And as I recapped, that's exactly what it is. We would be paying a single cost, $112 per ton for our garbage going up to the county burn plant, bringing it up there directly. The county does not charge us, and currently the municipalities of the city of Poughkeepsie, the town of Pleasant Valley, and the town of Pauling use this model of carting their refuse directly to a vendor. This is in comparison to what we currently pay our vendor today. We are charged a haulage fee of $215 per pickup. We are charged an additional $125 per ton. We are then subsequently charged $11.18 for a fuel surcharge. I apologize for the formatting. This came out differently on this laptop than it did on our computer, so that would have looked a lot better. But overall, in January of 2025, this town paid $12,572.62 in January. In comparison, if the town of Wappinger had contracted directly with the county RRC and had our own roll-off truck, we would have only paid $4,480 in January of 2025. In addition to this, there was a lost opportunity of $2,100 in scrap metal that we could have made. Currently, the town, we do go out and seek other scrap metal vendors that we will either bring our scrap metal to or they will come to us. But this was a lost opportunity because they happen to end up in our current vendors' dumpsters. And we lost out on that opportunity. Right now, as it stands, the town of Wappinger is projected to pay our current vendor $150,871.44. If we were to average this out for an entire year, you would be looking at the average savings of $97,000 per year. That is why we are doing this. This is not to buy a new asset for the highway department, not to just continue to maintain the same course that we have for many years. This is to be innovative with our approach. This is to save taxpayer money to keep the recycle center as affordable as it is to our residents. And on that note, I want to acknowledge the fact that the town of Wappinger really has not raised our fees to the recycle center and transfer station. That's a benefit to us. Even though this continues to cost us significant amounts of money, we are not making any money on this. I would like to note that the first base fees charged by the town of Wappinger for the recycle center in 2011 was only $35. Fast forward to today, 2025, the average senior citizen base permit fee is only $45. And then today's regular base permit fee is only $75. In comparison, if you were going to go to another local vendor personally and not go to the recycle center, you would be looking at around $70 for one use, for one time going to that one vendor, in comparison to, again, the town of Wappinger charging $75 for an entire year. I would like to note that another town operating a very similar facility to us open the same amount of days as we are, which is almost unheard of in this county. So there is only one other town to compare us to, and that is Town A, because we don't want to call them out. but you can do your research and figure it out. But Town A is $390 a year for the same thing, base permit fee, for the same access that you would get to our Town of Wappinger Recycle Center. I just want to provide that as context, that as we continue to look at cost savings, this is to maintain the Town of Wappinger Recycle Center as one of the most affordable in this county, and again, to provide a tremendous asset and service to our town residents at an affordable cost, while saving money and not costing other taxpayers significant amounts of money. So with that, I would like to return to the dais and hopefully engage in a good discussion with my colleagues on the town board.
So now that you're back on the dais, I'll make a comment.
Yes, sir.
So right now, what we've got in the budget for 2025 is $260,000 allocated for this particular exercise. The vehicle itself is $239,000. If you look at the return on an investment, it's about a 2-year return. So after
Correct.
2 years, you basically almost break even, which is something phenomenal. And we can also keep our fees low, as we've been doing, as you showed the graph up there. And again, we want to try to continue to do that to help out our residents. But in about a 2.5 year period, you pay for itself. So this is a great investment, and I support it.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further discussion?
I mean, it's a no-brainer. You know, this town has been approaching these types of things in an innovative way since day one. This used to be free, remember?
Yes, it was.
We kept it free as long as we possibly could until we had to create a mechanism to improve accountability, number one, and also defray some of the costs up there. So in 2011, it went to $35, and you know that was a huge deal at the time, right? In the last 5 years, since 2020, we've seen 22% inflation alone, okay, across the board. And we've been able to maintain this service for our residents. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do the bulk pickup on the roadside because that still is cost prohibitive. But this does at least allow residents to discard items that traditionally are more difficult to get rid of, right? So I think it's a great service. I do applaud the town clerk's office, who often has the difficult job of managing the permits and handling the accountability on the front end, right, which can be real challenging with certain personalities, right? So I thank you for that. And of course, the laborers and the highway personnel that work up there that keep this thing running, you know, they do a great job. So now we start the next chapter, in my opinion.
Yes.
You know, we've seen the costs increase, right, across the board for everything. And we know that getting rid of garbage has increased significantly. So it's not on the vendor, really. I mean, the vendor has a cost to do business, right?
Absolutely.
And they're being they're facing significant challenges alone, right? So for us to streamline the process and, as you said, cut out the middleman and be able to handle this ourselves, I think is a smart approach. And again, it provides value to the residents, both on the town of Wappinger side of the village and in the town outside the village. So I appreciate your research. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further discussion?
Now, I also want to thank the town clerk as well. I know that Joe's been working on this for a number of years, bringing us proposals forward. So thank you, Joe, for, you know, staying with us and getting us through the finish. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
We're extremely fortunate to have the manpower
Yes.
to do it. Our whole highway crew is able to do this. One of the things that the supervisor mentioned was the pickup fee.
Yes.
Anybody who's gone there, every one of those dumpsters is a pickup fee. So it's not just them showing up one day.
Yeah.
So if they have to pull 10 dumpsters out in a week, that's 10 pickup fees. So,
Exactly.
and what you had said in January, if we had sold the scrap, we would have had a net of $2,500.
Exactly.
So that's a significant savings.
Exactly.
So,
And Councilman Phillips, I'd like to thank you as well for supporting this. This is something that before I became town supervisor and worked in this town government, we had worked on trying to get passed.
We did.
And I am so happy that in collaboration with our highway superintendent and yourself and I, we were able to hopefully get this adopted here tonight and, again, save our taxpayers significant amount of money.
So I make a motion, we approve.
Just a question for you.
Sure.
We own the roll-offs
Correct.
that exist there right now?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
So I have a motion on the floor.
We had a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. That is a historic step in the town of Wappinger Recycle Center. Thank you, folks. Resolution 2025-78.
Make the motion for discussion.
Resolution to authorize purchase of the Highway Department tractor, moved by Councilman Phillips,
Second.
second by Councilman Casella for discussion. This is something that was requested by the highway superintendent. It is very often, noted, by many council members to the highway department, what do you need, what do you need? And the highway superintendent noted that this is something that his department needs. We have been very proactive when it comes to beautifying and maintaining various easements and neighborhood entryways throughout the town. This tractor would allow the town of Wappinger Highway Department to maintain a number of these easements on the northern end of town and the southern end of town, essentially reducing mowing times across the town. It's something that many of us receive from our constituents day in and day out, requests to mow various entrances and easements and guardrails and so on and so forth. This would again cut that wait time, even though it is very minimal right now, but effectively in half.
So I know that I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, I'm all in favor of it. I've been there many times when one of the units came in for repairs.
Yes.
And I just, as we've talked about for the past 7 years, we need to get into the capital planning
Yep.
to make, these things that come up, you were fortunate to be able to afford it. And again, I am all in favor of it.
Absolutely. And Councilman, as you know, our two amazing mechanics at the Highway Department and now one at Buildings and Grounds have been very diligent in creating a capital asset list, especially when it comes to its maintenance schedules and end of effective life and useful life for the town. This was something, again, that based on a number of inquiries from town board members asking what the Highway Department needed, came up and essentially would allow them to effectively perform better out in the field as well. So yes, I agree with you 100%.
So the highway superintendent, I'm sorry, are you done? Okay. So, I mean to interrupt. So the highway superintendent said they're going to sell us on surplus the other machines, so we'll get some cash back, so it'll net against the $123,000 we're going to pay. But again, I know Councilman Beal and I have been talking about a capital plan. We do a lot of these one-offs. We're fortunate enough, as Councilman Phillips said, that we have some fund balance, but it would be nice to see a 1 to 3 year capital plan so that you're not constantly going
I
into
agree
it.
with you 100%.
If we can do that, would it be good? I know they're looking at assets and cleaning things up and pulling together things that they need in the future, but it'd be just nicer to.
I would like to note too, Councilman, to your point, that these two resolutions tonight are the first requests of the Highway Department, actually, as long as I've been supervisor. So they have been able to work within their budget and purchase a number of capital assets that maybe would have come before the town board for fund balance transfers in the past, but this is the first time that they are actually operating outside their budget.
And there's no issue with that. I support this 100%.
The
But
business procedures need to be followed, and
if they know ahead of time, it's good to plan ahead.
let me finish. This came in recently. I'm not saying that we don't need it, but at the same time, I'm surprised that we didn't know about it when our budgets were done.
I mean, it is no
I
different
don't
than when your
understand.
brother was the highway superintendent.
It has
He came in a
nothing to
number
do-
of times.
it-
Oh, no, it's
it
not
has-
personal. It's just that he
No,
came
but
in a number of
again,
times and
we have
brought in
numerous
vehicles.
times spoke about things being in budgets.
Yeah.
And this, I just find it hard to believe, not hard to believe, but I'm just surprised that we're in March and we're hearing about a lawnmower now.
And
And
that's
I-
why he's trying to get ahead of the mowing season. But again, as things come up, it's no different than I believe the 6 different trucks that were purchased under the previous highway superintendent halfway through the budgetary year. So things happen.
I
We try to
understand things
facilitate the request.
happen. I'm not saying that they don't happen, but it's better business practice to put these in your budget.
Absolutely.
We're not cutting grass right now. I'm surprised, when did we know that we really needed this? That's all I'm saying. We need to be very conscious of the fact that we're doing this without having it in a budget. And I also see the total list price is $75,000, but the total offer value is $123,000? Is that because it's additional things?
Well, it's the tractor alone, and then it's the mowers and
All the
everything.
accessories and everything else that go
Okay,
with it.
so the one that we have right now is going to be scrapped and sold?
They're going to sell it, that's correct.
So,
They can't repair it anymore, so it's at the point where they're going to get whatever they can for it, which
That's
will be
what's
a
gonna
reduction
happen?
to the overall,
Do you know?
what's that?
So-
I was not aware that it was going to be scrapped. My understanding was that this was going to be in addition to.
They were
the
going to put it over to, but I talked to Mike before, and he said they're going to try to sell it if they can. If they can't, then it would go over to potentially Buildings and Grounds. But there's an opportunity for, bring some cash back in. So if they can do that, I think that's great,
great.
to offset the cost.
Did he give you any idea of
Do you know
availability?
what I'm saying?
Availability, no.
Do you agree?
Because it
It's
looks,
supposed to be in the budget.
they're sourcing it from
right?
Chambers,
How
and
many times have we
they're,
told them?
last time I went by there, they were pretty well stocked, so hopefully.
Yeah, I don't see a long turnaround time on this, especially since the highway superintendent anticipated this to come in by this mowing season
Okay.
to accommodate all of the town board members' requests as well.
Sure.
So at the end of the day, we have money in the DB fund,
Yes, we do.
right?
And this is the first time he's come, this administration.
You know, it is what it is. I'm not going to argue the need or the purchase, but as Councilman Casella said, you know, in a perfect world, you know, we would like to see a capital plan. Whether that's realistic or not sometimes is also a challenge, right? So
Of course.
let's face it, you know, and listen, I am 100% transparent here. We have an election cycle every 18 months, right? And that's why it's a challenge to capital plan, because you're running every other year. So when you're doing a 5-year plan or a 5-year strategy, it's very difficult to put expenses into a plan that can often become politicized through 2 elections. So with respect to the highway superintendent, he has a 4-year term. I'm very jealous. But, you know, a tractor is kind of a one-off thing, but when we see these large vehicles, these dump trucks and Vectors and things like that, I certainly agree with the councilwoman. I would appreciate seeing a vehicle replacement policy, maybe a 5-year, whatever, you know, fire trucks usually 5-year. We look at the inventory and we're doing an assessment based on, you know, maybe a 15-year replacement policy, right?
I agree with you.
And-
I'm just saying, if you have an inventory, you know what's good and what's not good.
And I just want to say
That's all.
that we do. I want to kind of go back to my previous point that I don't know was caught, but we do have a capital plan for that department specifically that our 2 mechanics work on. We did purchase a truck that the town board was aware of last year within their budget. So we did not come to this town board.
But that's good business practice.
It is.
That's what they're
That's
supposed to
exactly
do.
it. Exactly. Well, previously, under the prior administrations, you saw hundreds of thousands of dollars ending up in fund balance by the town highway superintendent not buying the assets that he needed. And so we really empowered the highway superintendent to follow through on his capital project list as provided by his mechanic.
Right, but
And
we-
purchased that last year in his budget.
And that's
I
fine.
understand.
I'm just
This is
saying
something
that,
different.
I'm just saying that our managers that have budgets need to be able to forecast.
We're very fortunate.
Within their
Yes,
budgets.
I agree with you
That's all.
100%.
We're very-
And it's
And they all
good
do.
business practice.
I just had a conversation today with Director Fulton about staying within budget, right? So, not that she was going to be out of budget, but again, to be mindful of that.
This
And-
isn't our money. It's
Yes,
the taxpayer
exactly.
money.
And the
Right.
idea is to exactly do that, and we have been accomplishing that, and we have the most realistic budget that this town has seen in quite some time, and we're doing that. So again, this is up for the town board's deliberation. The highway superintendent passed along. I'm just passing it along. I support it personally. I think it
support
would be
it
a great
too.
asset to the town.
Yes, and I think if this property that he brought up, that we don't need anymore,
Mm-hmm.
will also not be a burden anymore.
Let's hope.
We'll see.
Let's hope. I hope to have your support on that.
We'll see. We'll see.
Okay, we had a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
No?
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. The motion passes. Resolution 2025-79, resolution authorizing funding to complete the Castle Point reconstruction project. Do I have a motion for discussion?
Make the motion for discussion.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilwoman Bettina. With that, this is something that we have been speaking about for quite some time. We are able to fund the completion of a new playground, which is coming in very shortly there. We have funded in our 2025 budget a new summer camp program to operate out there, which was one that I believe was canceled in 2016. 2011 was the last one to operate there, so it was a recent camp. This is something to expand the size of the existing pavilion. The Town of Wappinger Buildings and Grounds Department has done a substantial amount of work to renovate those restrooms out there, and this pavilion we see serving a dual feature, one accommodating our summer camp program, and two also facilitating neighbor and community rentals, since that has a beautiful vantage point of the Hudson River. So I'd like to ask Recreation Director Jessica Fulton to come up. She did provide us with a synopsis as well as a copy to the town clerk of her proposal.
I'm just going to move this so I don't mess up the laptop.
So we had seen portions of this going back as far as November. You can see on the front, we have what's already funded, which is the playground installation and surfacing, which, as the supervisor mentioned, is right around the corner. A good update for you all is it should be done by the middle of April. So that should all be installed, done, surfacing in. The playground crew is really itching to get it done, so that is a good update. Outside of that, I'd come in with an estimate for a pavilion kit, okay? I had a significant issue trying to get a construction quote from that vendor. They are on one of the cooperative purchasing agreements. So we were trying to streamline all of that through the purchasing cooperative to be in compliance with our procurement policy. However, once that number actually came in, I fainted, and about 20 minutes later, realized that's not the route that we need to be going. It was astronomically expensive and would put the cost of the pavilion somewhere near $200,000. So we went back and started doing individual estimates. Sal, our supervisor of buildings and grounds, got the concrete estimate for $28,200. That's an extension and the footings, so an extension of the existing concrete pad as well as the footings. The pavilion itself is the $54,661. And then the construction itself would be being done by the Buildings and Grounds Department. When you purchase from Cedar Forest Products, you get the stamped engineer drawings from them upon purchase. They won't give them out ahead of time, you know, it's proprietary information. When we met with that vendor, Susan Deo from the building department stepped in, let them know what she would need from them, that these engineered drawings would be stamped by a certified engineer, and that she would obviously review it to make sure it met our code. It will, really just based on the fact that everything is very standardized in these kits. So they're meant to conform to the standard building requirements. Outside of that, we have the parking lot. Larry Paggi checked my work today on that one. On the map that is in your packet, the parking lot is alongside of the road there. That was the area where Larry felt it would be the best spot to put it. What is it? Oh, it's a phone. I heard that too. I'm like, sounds like there's a dog barking. That's okay. Alongside the road, because one of the requirements by the Department of Health when I did the site visit with them was no through traffic in the camp area. So if you can envision Castle Point Park with its overhead view, really if you're going up near where the even current pavilion is, you would be having traffic into the program area. So Larry, can you confirm I put it exactly where you suggested?
Sorry.
Can you confirm I put it exactly where you suggested?
You did.
Okay, there we go, we have that. So it is a little over 6,000 square foot parking lot. My original math put 16 parking spots. Larry's, which is better than mine, put 14. I believe his. So we have a 14-car parking lot, which is in fact better than what we have at Mart's for the most part.
Yes.
Then split rail fencing along the side of the road. The supervisor's looking to kind of, as we go replacing fences, move to a split rail concept as opposed to chain link.
It looks a little more inviting than the barbed wire that's currently out there.
I agree with you, but from watching children play, maybe on the inside of the fence, there's something that could be put there, like Randolph
panel?
School has.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the kids don't
We
escape,
can look
and they
into-
don't go after the ball and run out into the street,
Yeah.
which is very close to this park.
We would be following
So-
what similar towns have done and adding a chicken wire inlay to it, which essentially,
Not that
you know,
expensive.
yeah,
I can
which
add that on
essentially keeps all the balls, kids, everyone from inside the playing area. That is what other towns have done. That's
And
what we'd be doing.
also, in practice, really the only time they're going to be going anywhere near that fence, which is an important safety concern, is when their parents are loading and unloading them
Yes.
from the car. So that does
That's in a
matter.
perfect world.
Yes, yes.
You know that, I know that.
Yes.
Children are very fast.
Oh, are they?
And they're
Yeah,
on
I
the
know
other
that.
side. They're very fast on the other side of that fence. They're after a ball.
Yes.
They're going to go right through it. Or somebody's going to come through it, or an animal's going to come through it. I think having something on the other side is
Okay.
a very important safety.
I can definitely, and I, especially in the split rail fence one, I worked in a little bit of contingency, and since we're dealing with something like chicken wire that is not that expensive, contingency would certainly cover that.
I think safety is
Yes.
paramount versus the expensive chicken wires.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I'm just saying I'd already worked it in, so we don't
Okay.
have to ask for any
So-
more.
Councilman Casella?
Couple questions for you.
Yes.
So the entrance today into that park, it's a single lane entrance? So when you
Correct.
come in, you've got the gates, it's only a single lane? The thing you got to be careful of is you have cars backing up on Castle Hill Point Road, the road there. So I just want to make sure that we're
Yeah,
not going to
River.
have people so far backed up, because if you have, I don't know how many kids you're planning on having, but let's assume you get 100, 125, whatever the number is, it's going to be a lot of cars backed up with only 14 parking places. So that's issue number
Well, don't
one.
forget, that's more than Mart's Field had.
Yeah, so we run
get it.
into a really similar situation at the corner of Montfort Road. I mean, could we eventually widen the gate? We could, but I don't think it's going to be too much of a traffic issue,
And-
especially because everyone's kind of, you think that everybody's there all at once, but it's a little more spread out than you'd expect.
And I know that you have the map open right now, Councilman, but as you can see here, it's going to go off the existing driveway. Essentially, no one's going to be going beyond that gate, and everyone will be in a Mart's Field concept, pulling in and out off the road.
I'm just thinking about when I played softball in the Castle Point, it
Oh,
was
yeah.
going back and forth, it
Yeah.
was,
No one is going to be going all the way past, no one's even going to go that far.
Larry, I have a
So the
question.
gate is up further at the bottom right corner?
Yes, you see that.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
now, has anybody checked on the water, potable
Wait,
versus?
Wilbert, excuse me for just one
Sure, go
second.
ahead. Sorry.
Larry, you know and I know that's a blind spot right there. Has DOT weighed in on this, or do they have
DOT
to?
won't weigh on it, it's a town road.
Well,
town road.
does somebody need to weigh in on it? Because that is a blind spot.
That's the highway superintendent.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I can-
has he looked into that? I don't know.
I can ask.
Because that is a blind spot right there. Always has been. So I would need his feedback on that. or
One of
we
the nice
should have that
things-
feedback.
is, like, the way that it's configured, luckily, nobody's going to be backing out of anything.
No.
So, no, it's definitely still a blind spot, but we wanted to really make sure that nobody, because right now, the average person that pulls in up there to, like, park along the fence, they back out. It's terrifying. I admit I've done it, but it's terrifying to try to back out of there, so,
I have seen.
Even to leave, it's
Well, yeah,
terrible.
Yeah,
I've been there
yeah.
with Director Fulton, and she's had a close call at the current situation. As you can see here, though, the
Joey, don't tell
parking-
them about that.
Yeah, the parking area does still have a grass strip in between the road and the
Yeah.
parking area, so that would not be an issue either. So, again, we're
So they
dealing
could
with...
always park there if they had to. I got you.
Exactly, yep. So they're not going to be backing directly out, whereas right now, our current conditions, and when we currently had a summer camp there previously,
Yeah.
people were just backing in and out, it was very erratic. This is actually establishing a set parking area through a very wide entryway, as you can see there at the entry, as previously approved by the town of Wappinger and the Department of Health. To your point with the water, I had notified Camo Pollution Control, who previously had installed entire water treatment system in that building, which can be operable, and Mike Tremper has not told me anything to the contrary.
And you said the Board of Health had reached out to KMO Pollution and confirmed that everything was okay.
So we actually spoke to Mike Tremper tonight, and he said he'd like to do testing because it hasn't been tested since previous to COVID.
Oh, absolutely.
So we should just make sure, I'm sure it's fine, but let's just do the test to be on the
It
safe side.
has to. Let me just emphasize this. It has to, for Board of Health approval to move forward, as typically is done in every April, correct?
Yeah.
That's the problem. We won't know through April. So if we can get Mike to go out there now, maybe in the next 2 weeks.
Well, Mike can give them the numbers. I thought Mike had already given them the numbers.
Yeah, Mike Tremper did not seem to convey to me when I had told him about this and he was contacted, that there was any concern on that system.
I think Councilman Phillips and I
So
talked to him.
his words tonight.
That would have been
were,
nice to know ahead of
It's
time.
potable. He said, I would never drink it.
That's a
So-
problem.
Well,
It's also.
we don't encourage folks to drink our
Also,
water.
one of the issues we're going to have is the pump that's in there, the well, is designed for a residential home.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have 60, 80, 100 kids, it won't, the flow won't be enough to service them.
Mm-hmm.
To fix it, Larry's got to fix it. We can't just decide because it's a municipal water. It's got to be engineered by law. So that's one thing. My concern on the parking lot, and I brought this up originally to Larry, it's extremely soft ground.
Yeah.
Even putting in 5 inches of rock, I think we should have a bore test or something. Because that's at the bottom of a slope, I can just see it starting to wash out. Why wouldn't we put a binder on it or something like that? At least something,
If you'd like to pave it, we can pave it.
well, just even if you put a binder down, I mean,
Listen, right now, Rockingham Park got paved last year. We were
Yeah.
very accommodating to do that, as it was the right thing to do. I would like to see all of our parks paved.
I
I'd like to
think-
see the same support that we gave for Rockingham Park and Robinson Lane across all the rest of the parks. So right now, we're trying to do this very,
I know.
we're trying to keep the cost in mind and to keep this as cost-effective as possible, since we have a tremendous supply of millings, and that has been relayed by several members of the board. If we would like to have this paved, because it is a flat area, and I would like to note that the slope does go down toward the town of Fishkill side. It does not go directly, which is important to know, but it does not flow directly onto South River Road. We should be fine there. But if you would like to pave it, we could definitely amend the
And
cost.
Either that
Also-
or, and just an option to the water for the immediacy is to put a tanker up there.
I mean, again,
I'm just saying.
no, and I agree with you, and I love
Because
that we want to do this. I do.
If the water needs to have crucified us on water levels, PFOA, this, that, and the other thing, it's notoriously bad in that whole section of town.
Yes.
Yes.
That's an option for the summer, because you're talking about a huge upgrade of water equipment, and we haven't even talked about the sewer yet, so.
And well, again, I wish that we had that conversation together with Mike, because he seemed to think that everything was good. And again, this was operational in 2011.
Correct,
We're not talking about 1990, we're not talking about 2000, we're talking about 2011, that this
My
was a
concern
fully
is
operational
the
facility.
new,
Right.
the
We
new
just want to do it
regulations.
right.
Well, of course, yeah, the new
So,
regulations, absolutely. But again, no one has, to this point,
Yeah.
said anything to the contrary of what has been planned by the Director of Recreation.
And I'm not sure, and it's not great to say I'm not sure, but when Mike Trumper is saying he wouldn't drink the water out there, I don't know if he means with or without the operation of that filtration system
He's
that's
talking
on
as it
site.
is.
As is.
So why don't we just
Yeah.
have a conversation, I don't care who does it, have a conversation with Mike, Jessica, you should too, right? And I know we've kind of had
Larry, I'd like
it.
you to be
But just to
on it.
satisfy yourselves, to make sure we're all getting told the same story here. And if it's potable and it's fine, that's great. If it's not,
We
let's
have
find
to
out what we
fix
need to
it.
do quickly so that we
Yeah.
can make it work.
I would like to note that there are no water fountains in this park, and we have suspended the use of water fountains in our parks because of that reason. You know, Marshfield does not have one,
We-
but they do have a filter on there and everything, but we
Yeah.
do not have
We have a
water
water
fountains because we just don't want to take the risk of that.
Sure.
But again, right now, as it stands, you know, that restroom has been renovated by Buildings and Grounds. Someone could rent that facility right now with those restrooms in the current condition.
So what is your current capacity today for people there? Because it's like, what, a 15 by 30, you're going to add another 30 by 60?
So right now, it is about 20 by 40. I did the math. We can have, it is 2 rows of 6 tables. It only came out to about 40 people.
Okay. So
be able
40
to have under the
today, and then
current
if you add the
pavilion.
30 by 60 pavilion?
Because of the length and the ability to add the extra tables, I believe it's 125. I know it seems like a huge jump for not that big of a change, but what you're dealing with is changes in the amount of space that you need between the rows of the picnic tables. And when you have those 2 on the end and then can fit the additional rows in between with an aisle, it jumps it
And I would
pretty
like
high.
to note, too, what was our population of the summer camp at Martsfield last year?
It was about 160, just under 160.
Children, and we had about how many town residents on a waiting list?
It's about 65.
65 town residents on an additional waiting list. And I was very proud of this. This was the first year in probably close to 15 years that the town of Wappinger had 100% town residents in our program, which
Yeah.
was huge. Prior to that, we did accept out-of-town inter-school district residents. We could be seeing at this site potentially 100-plus, children utilizing this program,
And-
especially in the Chelsea Hamlet, who have actually come into town hall saying how excited
Yeah.
they were to hear that Castle Point was opening back up,
And-
and they'd be coming in.
Per the Board of Health, when I was up there with Kelly, those are almost, Jessica-imposed numbers, basically meaning that's what I'm comfortable with under that pavilion, based on the number of seats that we can have for kids on a rainy day. But that's not an actual Board of Health limitation. We could have more kids there if we wanted to. I'm just working off of what I feel like we can accommodate with the facilities that we're creating.
Larry, comments?
Couple quick comments. I would recommend that you don't pave, at least for the first year. I would let it go through the season. They've got a pretty decent base proposed there.
I think it's 10
It can be
inches.
maintained. If it gets soft, somebody can go out there and, stiffen it up with some additional material. And that way you'll get a good look through a season, what it looks like, and you also get good compaction, so that you won't get much settling and, because even if you have pavement on top, if what's underneath is soft, that you're going to lose the pavement. So my recommendation would be stick with the gravel for the first year, see how it performs. Regarding water, is there a requirement that, from the health department, that drinking water be supplied to the children?
Correct, yeah,
There is.
there is.
So what about the possibility of, rather than having a tanker truck, just saying any drinking water has to be
We
bottled
can-
water?
So, for example, like this building, you cannot drink the water in it.
Yeah.
There are notices above the sinks, do
But
not
the
drink the water.
sodium,
And
yeah.
so we can provide water coolers
Water
out there.
coolers, that's what I'm
And I would
thinking.
almost encourage that rather than anything else.
Yeah.
We can easily move one unit that was in here down to Castle Point. Either or, we can move it down there and accommodate that
Yeah,
need.
that way you're using the water there for flushing, for, watering, whatever you got to do, so
Do
use the
we
water
know
that you
the,
got.
Sanitary uses.
Flow rate for a camp?
But there are
Formulas
rates,
and stuff
yeah.
like
that?
I mean, there's DEC standards for that
Just
to help us.
Say we look into that.
We'll
because
take a look and see what the
Yeah.
well will produce.
Again, we have to look into what we have, what we need, and the cost versus, you might bring a tanker truck in just to flush,
Right.
you know,
Maybe.
based on capacity.
Yeah, I mean, again, if we can move forward with this concept here, and then we can work with the engineer to the town, Mike Tremper, as well as, Supervisor Buildings and Grounds, to set something up, and it could very well be the water coolers, which I would almost prefer. We can move this
So-
along.
So the thing we really need to, I mean, I get it, we want to do the whole project tonight, but the thing that's really the time-consuming is the pavilion kit, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So if you've approved the pavilion kit tonight, at the very least, you could move forward and it wouldn't delay anything else, is that correct?
Well, you wouldn't do the parking lot either, the gravel parking lot recommended by the engineer?
Well, no, I'm just saying that, you
If
could
I
do
had to
certain
pick
pieces. That's
a
not going to
thing.
hold us up from doing what we need
Yeah.
to do. That's the only really
Well,
time-consuming.
that's what I'm getting at, Councilman, is with the contingency that obviously we have to, because we have to pass a Board of Health inspection that was already on the radar and the agenda anyway. Why not approve what's being recommended here tonight to move the project along? And then we still have to, by law, accommodate and take care of the water concerns. So I would approve
So
the
my
rest of the
only
project
concern with
here.
this is if Jessica's working with Kelly for the Board of Health approval, can you get her here sooner than April to do a walkthrough?
I most certainly can.
I would feel more comfortable having her do a walkthrough before we start approving a lot of money here.
I also
I'm assuming
invite
it's going to go
everybody.
through
I
anyway,
agree.
but
Yeah.
I just want to be safe rather than spending, another $94,000, and God
Oh,
forbid
of
something
course.
falls through. That's my only concern.
But you're still going to approve the pavilion, which is between 54,000 and an additional 28,000.
Well, again, I think that's all contingent upon making sure we're going to get the Board of Health approval, correct?
So what we could do, this is just a proposal, but what we could do tonight is approve the pavilion kit. I can get on the phone with everybody tomorrow, okay? Set something up. Anyone would be invited to when I can get Kelly out there. We'll have the phone calls with Mike Tremper and Larry, and at least we have that approval for the pavilion kit so that when, hopefully, everything falls into place in the next 2 days or 3 days, we have that approval and can at least order that kit.
I have a few questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sir. Councilman.
Where is the pavilion going?
The pavilion is going where the existing pavilion is, but with a larger footprint.
So you're replacing it.
Yes.
How many kids do you anticipate being at this camp?
We are looking to do 125.
What is the ratio of counselors to kids under the best practices?
12 to 1.
So you're looking at, if you're going with 120, you're looking at what, 10 or 11, something like that?
We always overstaff because somebody gets sick. You always, not that I think we've done it
Yeah,
once
so you're looking
in
at
10
to
years.
1.
If you
So
need to,
it's good.
yeah, if you need to let someone go for any reason, we've done it once in 10 years, you need to have
Yes.
other people,
What is the age of the participants?
5 to 13.
All right.
The start date of program.
All due respect, Supervisor, there is no way we cannot have a chain link fence around this with 5-year-olds.
We could do whatever.
No, because I can just tell you right now, trying to corral my 5-year-old, which is one of them, they take off like a rocket. So there's ways to make it look nice. I just was looking at the Google Maps. It doesn't look horrible, but
Well, Randolph School too has it. and
No, I
you
get
can't
it.
even
I
tell,
mean-
it looks nice.
my concern here
They have
is,
split rail fence.
having an inner perimeter and an outer perimeter, right? So the inner perimeter is where the activities would take place, the outer perimeter would include the parking areas and where vehicles would be traveling, right? You gotta have compartmentalization here, especially with 5-year-olds, right?
And I would like to note, Castle Point probably has more compartmentalization
No, I'm
with
looking at
fencing than any other.
I
Yeah.
do see
Facility.
that, so.
This is just one section that would be taken down. The rest of it would remain,
Still,
which is,
on that roadway though, Joey, that,
They go so fast.
adjacent to that road, I think we
Well-
need to have some security.
Would you be comfortable with the split rail with the mesh in
No,
it?
I'm not comfortable with that, to be honest with you.
It's because it's not high enough?
I don't think it meets the standards. I mean, there's certain code standards for.
Well, yeah, and we are following those, because you could take a drive by the town of Poughkeepsie Summer Camp, and they have the same
Yeah.
exact setup that we're proposing here.
Yeah.
On Route 376, which is actually 10 times busier than River Road North.
Yeah, I don't-
And again, we're not putting any child safety at risk here, and I don't want that to be known, because you did say, no offense, Supervisor. This is not the intent
Right.
here. I think that the idea was, and again, if the town board would like to approve an additional set of chain link fence, I'm all for it. We're trying to, again, accommodate to the town board your request to come in as most affordable as possible with this project. If you'd like to add an additional layer of chain link fence, I welcome it.
Well, I think we need to have an area that is segregated between where the vehicles are going to be driving. And when I say that, I mean the vehicles that are going to be dropping off participants, that's one area, and the roadway itself. So looking at the parking area that's proposed, I would argue that there should be some sort of barrier between that parking lot and where these kids are playing. They shouldn't be running freely through those areas.
And
You
so
have
what
to
you're
be
looking at right
careful of
there,
the septic
Councilman,
field.
it would be over to the right of what you're looking at on your screen.
Yeah.
And over to your left, you can actually see that there is an
Yeah, I see
additional
that.
chain link fence that runs all the way up through the inside of the park.
Right,
That's where the playing area is on the left-hand side.
right, but the pavilion is on the right, correct?
And we can add an additional layer there if you'd like,
We
which I would
just-
actually encourage.
We just
Yeah.
have to be a little careful that we're not accidentally, Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, sinking things into the septic field.
We're not.
Okay.
We're nowhere near.
So,
Okay.
that's my concern there. The big elephant here in the room that no one has brought up is, do we have an obligation to evaluate air quality on top of a landfill that has methane that is actively ventilating?
Yeah. So we do that every quarter. The town has
Yeah.
has been contracted to
Since
do that
2000.
since the decommissioning of that plant and of that landfill there. We continue to show that there are no emissions coming from that former landfill. The cap is still strong there. Again, to put this in perspective, you were on the town board when this camp was operational up until 2011. Again, we would never even recommend this
Yeah.
site as being reopened if all of the health and quality of life standards were not looked at. So again, we get quarterly reports. They are sent to the engineer, to the town clerk, and myself every quarter. There is absolutely no risk or threat to public safety, and there has not been since the town of Wappinger started a camp there following the landfill decommissioning and until its closure in 2011.
Well, my concern would be that a lot of things have changed since 2011.
Well, it's continued to be
We're still-
monitored
yeah.
and held to the same standards that we would have today.
And
So the
we're-
standards and limits have changed. This is not like we hired a company way back when, and they provide us a report of 2011 numbers. They are still holding it to whatever the state of New York and the EPA put out. So
And-
we are looking at 2025 recent limits.
According to what I know about this, is it's a 30-year monitoring period, and we are actually 24 years already into the 30-year monitoring period. So that's why you're seeing a lot of these no emissions, things like that the cap's holding. So we're actually reaching very close to the end of even having to monitor it.
Which we will continue to.
Oh, we will, yes, but I'm saying by
Yeah,
the
but
regulation.
By standards, and again, it's funny, 1 year after this landfill closed, the town of Wappinger opened a summer camp there.
Correct.
And continue to run it throughout essentially a peak period for a landfill. We are now looking at it from the end of its monitoring phase, that we will again continue to monitor it. But the only reason why that this is even be considered is to again accommodate folks on the western side of town. And again, that it is 100% safe and it has the facilities that the town of Wappinger previously invested. Here's another thing, folks, you know, a previous town board invested a substantial amount of money to build the most modern restrooms in the town park system at Castle Point Park previously, with a full water treatment plant. So taxpayers have already made this investment. We don't want to see that investment go to the wayside. We want to continue to enhance and improve on it, and again, serve the folks in the western
So
side
Mike,
of town.
just going back to what Councilman Beal said, so I would feel more comfortable getting the Board of Health approval to take a look at the methane that's coming out of those potential lines there, and having Mike Tremper go out there and be able to, from Cable Pollution, take a look at those things. If they approve it, I don't know what 2 weeks does to our schedule, but me personally, I would feel more comfortable knowing that those two things have been approved by Dutchess County Board of Health.
The only thing that it would negatively impact is the pavilion kit.
So,
That,
I mean-
we're pretty tight on that at this point already. The rest of it, 2 weeks won't hurt.
So it seems from a camp operational point of view,
Correct.
the pavilion is the starting point, and you have the playground. And
Correct.
basically, where are you going to run the camp? On the top plateau there?
So we would be really running the camp on the full property, depending on things like weather, air quality, and not of the landfill, of, general air quality. We have a couple of pop-up tents and things like that we can have set up in those lower areas. But we're planning on using as much of that facility as possible throughout the day with our different groups.
So has there been any thought to put a set of stairs up the hill?
Higher to the
I'm
lower.
waiting for the first kid to roll.
roll down.
Roll down.
But you would have them roll down stairs. Wait,
Wait, what?
It's a park, hold on.
I would
I'm just
love to roll
confused
down
now.
that hill.
You can't even access the current Martz Field playground
If you
No, I
by the
are
same
in the
standard.
pavilion, to get to the playground, you have to go up that big hill.
Yes.
Yeah,
So has there been any thought to put in a set of stairs there?
for
I have
children.
not.
we just removed the set of stairs that were there because of the decay over the past 20
Yeah.
years from them.
Just
And-
pour a set.
And the footprint of that pavilion's getting larger, so it's going to be a little bit closer to there. The best access to that pavilion is actually, at the building, there's a small driveway, okay? That's the best way in. I don't really even know why those stairs were ever on the other side of the pavilion, because there was no point to them. It's a flat
we
walk
should
when you
take
go from the driveway to that.
Does it,
The hill up to the playground, I have
Would you-
survived
would you
it.
be okay with that?
So
Yeah.
if that's a
I'm talking-
benchmark,
And I know you're going to
Like
recommend a
Councilman Beal
field trip.
says,
Yeah, I think that would be good.
a bunch of 5-year-olds running up there, I can see.
But hold on, I
rolling.
just want to say something here. This park has sat legitimately neglected for like 25 years here. I mean, the bleachers were broken, split. I know Councilman Beal has had splinters while he's been sitting at Robinson Lane.
We won't say where they were.
These were rotted bleachers that we hauled out of there.
By the way,
We
we
have-
fixed that for you, by the way.
We
took care of
have
it.
2 softball fields that have not been used in at least 10 years.
I remember Al playing on one of those fields.
ones in the
though.
I'm
bottom.
sure it was.
it went to right about pre-COVID.
That was like 15 years ago, though.
In at least 10 years.
Less, definitely.
That hurts.
There's a metal slide and everything else that dates back 30 years. All this is trying to do is bring back a park for the people of the western side of town. This town board approved the playground, and I hate to be blunt, but the only reason why this is in front of the town board, because it's been fully budgeted, every other aspect of it, is because of the pavilion. I mean, we could drop millings there tomorrow, and I can have Buildings and Grounds go through there and rip out the fencing and utilize the current budget to put in a fence. It probably wouldn't be the same specs and standards that we're talking about here, but we could continue to move this project along, and every time we have a rain, cancel camp. Everything that we're talking about here tonight, as much as I appreciate it, I do, but we've talked about it. It's already been part of the plan, and I just want to know, and I just want everything to be out in public here, I want the residents to know that we did have a plan. Because I think a lot of times when we get up here, it's almost like, what's going on here in Town Hall day to day, because there was no plan. But we had a plan. We have a plan. The plan is still going to move forward. I appreciate everyone bringing it up here tonight. I appreciate it being out in a public forum, but again, for this camp to even open, septic, water, everything had to be out in the open. Everything would have had to have been approved by Dutchess County Board of Health. That was still on the trajectory,
But it hasn't.
because it hasn't gotten to that point.
I know, but
It's
shouldn't
no
we?
different, it's no different than any other inspection that we've done with the Dutchess County Department of
But
Health.
you're almost putting the cart before the horse here. I'd rather have the approvals from the, what's it take?
Then
A
why did
couple
we
days?
approve the playground?
What?
Why did we approve the playground? then why did we
Well, we
fund it in
Because
the
we
budget?
haven't
We
done
definitely
anything
needed
in
a
that playground in
playground.
30 or
Yeah,
40 years,
it's a
that's why.
need.
Well, and the pavilion there is in equally rough shape.
Well, to be fair, though, the playground's on the northern side of the property, man.
That's
That's
true.
not next to the landfill. And my concern is, and, you know, I've always had this concern, is there anything that separates the area adjacent to the pavilion and the candy cane sticking up out of the ground?
No.
No,
not.
nor was there
So
ever, no.
No, but
I will admit,
Yeah.
though, I'm
Doesn't
not
matter.
very comfortable with having our kids running around the candy cane sticking up out of a landfill. I'm really not.
And how many are there? There's not like one, there's got to be like
It's
8.
I mean,
A little bit
doesn't really
more.
pass the
And-
look test when, you know,
But we want to move this forward because the residents deserve it.
They want it.
I understand that, and nobody's saying that we don't want to do this. We just want to do it right. That's
and-
all.
and again-
And I think maybe a group visit would be helpful too, so everybody can see what's going on.
A group visit would have been great years ago, too.
You're right.
It just-
And if I won the lottery, I would be in the Bahamas. I can't change what
I
happened
get
in the
that.
past.
I get
okay?
that. But all I'm saying is, we're just trying to correct it now. We continue to get the monitoring reports that show that there is no impact on public
But you may also
health.
get valuable input from the rest of the board members if we go on a visit,
Yeah.
right?
So something else to consider when it comes to the pavilion, okay, is that when we upgraded the playground at Martz Field and we upgraded the pavilion, you don't really ever make your money back on these large-scale park investments. I don't want to pretend like that is something that's going to happen. You do it because it's good for the community, but we will have the overflow rentals of all the booked-up dates from Martz Field booking over at Castle Point. So the pavilion itself being upgraded to something nicer, larger, better furnished, things like that. We already have those furnishings because we had a 3-year plan for our picnic tables, so we're all good there. It will get used regardless, and it would be a large upgrade to the park in general, camp aside. So, I mean, I know that, we're looking for as many reasons for this, to move forward tonight as possible.
I mean, but there shouldn't be a need to show a cost analysis on this. And I appreciate what you're getting at,
Yeah.
Jessica. I do. But when we put in playground equipment, when we've updated pavilions, I mean, hell, when the town can spend a considerable amount of money on an over-engineered pavilion at Martz Field.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Which is an absurd amount of money that pavilion cost. There was no cost analysis, there was
I don't
nothing.
think anybody's asking for an ROI.
I'm just
No,
piggybacking
it's just like the
piggybacking on
multiple
what the Director of
uses.
Recreation is
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, and I'm not looking for an ROI on this
No,
thing either.
but I just
we
want
know
that
where
to be
there's money
known,
on it.
that this is, again, something that the residents of the town have essentially paid for over time. And the residents of the Second Ward in the Chelsea Hamlet have not gotten that park improved.
You're right, you're 100% right.
Yes.
But we're trying to do it right. And I think the
We were
input
always
from-
doing it right.
But we could do it better. If
Okay.
we could come together and go visit it, and then you do what you have to do with the Board of Health. Larry, if you have any input, it would be welcomed, and we'll go from there.
And-
We're not saying we're
I
not
know.
going to do it.
But I'm just
That's
saying that
all.
all of this due diligence was, I mean, again, it was done. The engineer to the town has already weighed in that there's no impact. He's recommended that we don't even need to pave it. I mean,
That's fine.
we've identified where the water
you
line
want
is
to-
run for the well.
what
We've
would you be
identified
able
where
to-
the septic is. We've identified the fact that the air quality is strong. I mean, if there's significant concerns about the landfill there, do we want to shut down the park?
No, nobody's saying that. We could get a date when we can all go and visit.
Well, I mean, I think, the purpose of this discussion is for us to express any concerns or questions. I have concerns. I mean, what we did in 2011 and what we did in 2001 is totally different than what we do in 2025, right?
Absolutely.
I can sit here and say, hey, great idea. Let's put, 100 kids, 120 kids out on top of the landfill and have them dancing around the candy cane so they can post it all over social media and then watch the public go crazy. What are they doing?
We currently have that.
Right.
We currently rent that park, just so you know, Councilman.
That's a private rental. I'm talking about us facilitating the public.
No, it's a private rental for kids.
No, I
With-
know, but.
I don't
They go
agree
out
with it.
there.
I don't agree with that. I don't think that's a good look. This is my opinion, okay? My opinion is that.
I'm just giving you information.
Right, but my opinion is that The playground is on the north side of the property. It's in an area that is at a different elevation. It's a fenced-in area. That's why I supported the playground. That's also why I supported the improvement of the memorial that's there. That's in that
Right.
area right there, okay? If we're going to turn this into 100-plus kids that are now going to be spread across an entire property where the water operator says he won't even drink the water on the property, I have major concerns about this, okay? And I'm not going to put $250,000 into this if those concerns exist. That's just my position. I'm only one-fifth.
I respect it. I respect it. It's not
Excuse me.
$250,000. I would like to note, but again, the water operator has said the same thing. He won't drink the water
It
in this
says here
building.
$251,593.
Yes, you've already approved $157,000 of that.
Right. So total gross is $251,593. So that said, I'm not trying to be an obstructionist, but I
No.
think we have valid concerns here with respect to water quality. I question air quality, okay? I know that we monitor this, and I understand there's passive monitoring going on in these landfills from 30 years ago. I still do not trust the air quality in the vicinity of these landfills. I do not. The standards of today are different than they were 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. On a hot day where it's 100 degrees outside and this thing is burping, I don't necessarily want a bunch of kids sitting there breathing that air in, and that's my personal opinion.
Absolutely. But I just want to extend that to, maybe we should not rent out that facility right now, because right now we currently have children playing on that facility. They are paying a rental fee. They are operating an athletic program out and around that facility, and they are still Town of Wappinger residents. If this board has a legitimate concern about the landfill, I would argue that we should suspend any and all rentals on that park.
Well, really, and the public, it's open to the public.
Well, then we
you
should
know.
shut it down.
Yeah.
No, I think we need to have air monitoring that meets today's standards
does.
for the purposes of groups of people being on the property. It's a lot different than driving by the airport where there's a landfill that no one is on or near. That's different than having a park that the centerpiece is actually a landfill.
I agree, and that's why the Town of Wappinger, we spend taxpayer money right now, every quarter, to do that test. It's not passive testing, it's not driving by, it's not based on 20-year-old standards. It's based on 2025 current standards that we pay good taxpayer money for to have that park open to the public. We see those statistics, we see that documentation. I'm going off of our professionals.
So why don't we just get Dutchess County to get down here as soon as possible
That's what I said.
and give us their opinion?
Would you like to do a group trip there, too? One night, like at 5 o'clock? I mean, it's daylight savings time, still light out. Or 6 o'clock?
I'm all about field trips. As long as I can make it, I'll be there.
Not 6 o'clock on a Thursday night, this Thursday night.
Well, I gotta get permission.
Well, everybody has to
from,
look, I know, I
It has to be
understand
noticed
totally.
publicly as a meeting.
Okay.
And Mike, so what we're talking
This
about.
Thursday, we
We
can't
have
do
a pavilion sitting here, and
We can't.
Larry, you've been there.
Meeting.
How high is that held to go up to the playground?
About
12 feet, 18 feet?
Monday.
I don't think it's that much.
No,
I gotta look.
12 feet,
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah.
Should we
Yeah,
put in
that's a
some
hike.
kind of,
Steps.
I'm just from a legal point of view.
Or a ramp, or something.
We just have a dirt path
You
going
have a
up.
hill
Council.
with stones.
What triggers the most liability? Creating the path of access or having an open field? I'll let you answer.
Something, I mean, it's gotta be. Accessible. Yeah, accessible.
Yeah, right now, it's, here, Larry, you know, it's the hill. You know, here's the pavilion, you walk across the street,
And we're
and then
talking
you
about
go
little
up the hill.
kids, too.
Yeah, little kids with short legs.
So rather than stairs, what you may want to do is grade a little path up to it.
That's fine.
Okay.
It has that.
Does it?
Yeah, it has a driveway that comes in off the main driveway to a sidewalk.
Closer to the, I was just looking at, you know where that path is?
You talking about on the left side?
So,
Toward
Yes.
the left side of the,
no, he's not even looking there. He's talking about the pavilion and the restrooms.
Over there?
Yeah, so we removed a staircase that was just crumbling. There was nothing left to
that
it. We
would go
removed
straight
that.
ahead
Yeah.
from the.
Yeah, it went straight across. And there is currently a pathway from the restrooms off the driveway. You won't be able to see it there, Bill. It's, if you go on parcel access from an aerial,
Yeah, I got that
On the
too.
other side.
yeah, and you're going to see the restrooms, which is the first building to the left.
Yeah.
all right? There is a driveway that comes in from the
Oh,
main
okay,
road.
right.
And then there's a sidewalk that gets you to the pavilion right there, from there. So it
And
is,
it's actually going to be even closer because the footprint of the pavilion is going to cheat towards the building. So it's actually even closer.
to get more of a Hudson River view.
Yes. It's a beautiful view.
And again, when we do this field trip, if we'd like to fence off that whole area there, we could certainly do that. But again, I just go off of what the testing and our professionals say, that there is no threat.
So you guys, everybody figure out when they can go over soon? Today's
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be
Monday.
easier for us to do two, a couple of us at a time. This way
Yes.
it doesn't trigger a whole town board meeting. But yeah, we could stop over and check it out.
Yeah.
I
Again-
can set up
Take
individual
pictures.
appointments with everybody. I can,
Yeah, I think there's certainly potential here, but I want to make sure that we're not going to be in a situation where we're dropping all this money and then find out that there's an issue with what we want to do.
I agree.
My point exactly.
That's all.
I think that's everyone's point. Not anyone's perspective. Everyone wants to make sure that, we're doing this the right way.
I just really wish that, 10-plus acres of this parcel weren't covered in candy canes. That's what.
Yep, it would have been nice. But I think that's one of the reasons why we have it.
That's all.
Well, actually, no. I mean, it was deeded to the town of Wappinger in the 1970s by the federal government. Our forefathers opted to utilize it as a landfill rather than for recreation for an extended period of time. So, no, that was gifted to the town of Wappinger residents as recreation.
and the
but-
federal government said, that's not why we gave that to you.
Exactly.
Anyway,
So-
moving right along.
Yes, exactly.
And
That's
just for-
that's why we don't do bulk pickup anymore, is because it ended up there for the most part.
And Joey, for some historical lore, this is also why we own a portion of the town of Fishkill,
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
which is next,
Yes, we own property in
1.9
the,
acres.
we own property in the town of Fishkill and the town of East Fishkill, which we pay taxes on currently, which I'm in the process of negotiating to
Yep.
stop paying taxes.
A
But
nice
we
little
have for the past 50
triangle at
years.
the back half of the property.
Okay, so what are we going to do?
I would like to approve the resolution as is, and then, again, contingent upon everything that we talked about here tonight, because, for full disclosure, there can't be a camp there until everything's been resolved anyway. And again, Councilman, to your point, you're only talking about $10,000 out of the total scope not being approved then.
So actually, what I want to do is I want to table it.
Okay.
I want the answers from the Board of Health, and I want the answers from Mike Tremper. I don't feel comfortable otherwise, and I know that Bill's got some concerns about the candy canes, but that's where I think I'm at right now.
I was willing to purchase the kit,
Yeah.
There is a chance we could lose out on the whole
because
thing
then if you don't
without
put
the
it there, you
purchase
put it
of
on
the
my
kit.
park.
I figured there was an...
You know,
There
and
was a reason.
here's the
But that's too
honest
big
truth
for your
of it
park.
is, once you own the kit, it's yours.
Just saying, you guys owe me one.
Yeah, and yes, and that's all part of the process.
Yeah.
And I hope that we do the same diligence that we're doing here tonight for
Yeah.
the Reese Park Trailhead.
I don't have a landfill. There's no
I'm
landfill.
sure
in my
you will. And he deserves a
You just
deserves a
have a
paved
thing
parking
that
lot
goes
as
down.
well.
We'll give them a pop-up.
No, I don't want to pay the parking lot. I don't have a landfill in my park, so I'm good.
No,
Well,
you
and-
can,
Well, that we know of.
Yeah.
We did fill in a hole.
But,
get a
I mean,
pop-up.
truly, if we buy the
But-
pavilion kit and everything were to change, we own the pavilion kit. We put it
Because,
wherever
and
we
again,
want.
just to explain to the residents and to the board maybe as well, this installation and the work would be performed in-house by Buildings and Grounds, as well as with the Highway
Yeah.
Department. So we're saving a significant
Yeah.
amount of money by doing this in-house and purchasing essentially a stick-built kit. Again, a substantial amount is for the concrete and the footings. We're saving a substantial amount of money by preserving portion of the concrete pad that's there, that's actually in excellent shape. So there is a significant cost savings here. So to Councilman Beal's point, I would support buying the kit, at least to move this along and to secure the rate that we have, and at least to,
So what's our clawback if we move forward and we pay the roughly $55,000? If you order it tonight, can we cancel?
why would we cancel?
no, we can give
Well,
it,
if these other things don't
can
happen,
give it to
But why would we cancel? We would
So-
move it to another park.
Well,
We're
and-
buying a
it's
stick-built
too,
park.
it's too big for the park
No,
overnight.
it's not.
We
No,
could-
it's not.
30 by 60?
30 by 60 will work on my
Yes,
park.
me and
Yeah.
Councilman
were gonna
Beal
say that.
measured it. No, Councilman Beal and I measured it.
We walked it with a wheel.
Oh, I thought you said last time, Jessica, it was a little too big for that.
That was
Okay.
my opinion.
Yeah, it's a matter of opinion, but again,
Yeah.
we,
So you put a category,
What I'm saying is, either
kitty
way,
corner.
if we buy the kit, we have the kit, and we have that
Yeah.
flexibility, right? I mean, I want to see this move forward on Castle Point. However,
Yeah.
I don't want to be in a position where we, find out that there's issues on the property that we can't move forward.
Yes.
I don't think that there's harm in ordering the kit. I think we can put the kit to use. Even if we didn't have the playground on that property, I think we still could increase the pavilion size.
Yeah.
So that's just my position. It's up to you because a motion to table trumps everything, so
would you like to rescind
you have
your
control.
motion?
No.
Okay, then I'll second it.
Oh, now, what does everybody else think?
So I'm all for this company, CFR. If anybody remembers, that's the company I wanted to build the stage with. So they build a quality product. I'm concerned with all the permits
Other
and
things.
the water and the sewer at the park.
CFP, you mean?
Yeah.
Are you,
But
Bill, are
again,
you comfortable enough with going forward with 55,000?
Yes, yes.
Regardless.
Right. I think that there's still going to be value in owning the kit.
Yeah.
I do. I think that,
As long as you can use it for your part, God forbid this
well,
thing
not
falls
just
through.
not just my part.
Or
What
any
I'm
part.
saying
One of the
is, I do think, even if we don't move ahead with a formal playground program at this location, there could be a benefit in increasing the size of,
I just want to make sure we have the
100%.
flexibility. If we can do that, I'll withdraw
Yes.
my
It would
table.
fit down at Quiet Acres, by the way, just saying.
I'm
In the floodplain, in the floodplain that
So
you
that's
installed
my
a playground
thought
in.
process is that. My thought process is, if we get the kit ordered, it's going to give us more options, right? I
Yes.
think that we can remedy some of these concerns, right? And I know, some might not want to have a water buffalo sitting there, right? But that's one option, right? Do we segregate the area so that kids aren't running around out on top of the landfill? Yeah, we could do that, right? I think there's options here we can discuss further
Right.
after we have our respective visits to the location,
Right.
right? I just don't want to hold up the
I-
purchase of this
Of the
piece.
pavilion.
I just want to make sure we have flexibility, because if you're approving it and something else comes up, Board of Health or whatever else comes up, I don't want to say, well, you passed the $55,000 and now all of a sudden,
Well, we
we're
could
going to move
use it
forward.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's the
I
other
get, I just want to
thing.
make sure we have that option. I don't want this to
We
be,
can.
you approve it, it automatically goes there if something else comes back. I just want to feel comfortable that it's safe.
I agree. That's
So
the
I will
most.
withdraw my table,
and-
but I'm still not comfortable with, until I see the Board of Health approve. But if you want to approve the $55,000,
So, yeah, so I can
Amend it.
if you want. I'll amend the resolution, and I'll frame it like this. We're going to break this down into steps, okay? So I'm going to frame this in a way, a positive way, okay? That's not for the resolution. So I move that we amend the resolution just for the purposes of purchasing the pavilion kit at 54,661 at
Plus-
this time.
plus the
Plus the 28,200 for the concrete and footings.
Second.
with, I want to put a caveat, with the assumption that Jessica gets both Board of Health approval, it's got to be one of the options, and Camo Pollution comes back and said it's potable water.
Or we have a water solution, right?
Or we have a water solution.
It's something about the
Right.
candy
You
canes.
got to put those in there,
I
because,
will do nothing else but work on those two things tomorrow,
and how do you
so.
feel about your candy canes?
Well, I think we just
We have
need
to
to.
do something
All we
about
have to
that.
do is, we have a portion of the property that's not, not open to the public or something like that.
Okay.
We can have that discussion. We got to get out there and look and see how that's laid out. You can't see elevations on parcel
No.
access.
I would also encourage every member of this board to read the reports as well that say that it's perfect.
I'm not doubting what the reports say. I get that, but I can just tell you, in a social media world, we can have reports that say everything's clean, but somebody posts one picture of their kid dancing on top of a candy cane.
It was all over Wappinger Rises. It was all over Wappinger Rises, kids playing soccer and everything playing down that
I know,
hill,
but still.
right next to the candy canes. So,
I
I mean,
don't,
it's on the most popular social media account in the town, and
But I think we're being proactive.
So we're just trying to,
Proactive would have been months ago, but hey,
know,
I appreciate the conversation.
I can't change what
this
happened
is deliberation,
before, all right?
So, anyway, I have a motion on the floor, which is to amend the
And,
resolution.
Second.
moved by Councilman
Wait,
Beal.
wait. So you got the amendments in there I want to know too,
Yeah,
right?
so let me just,
Let's make sure they're in there.
let me just restate it quickly, okay? I'm amending the resolution to include the purchase of the pavilion kit, the pavilion concrete and footings with the stipulation that we're going to receive
Board of
approvals, the respective approvals to run the summer
Written,
camp there.
written approvals, written.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, that's how a Department of Health approval works.
Well, no, because you got a verbal approval before.
Yeah, so
It's not written.
what I can do is, since permit process is not until April, I will have summary emails from the people
Okay.
that I meet with out there saying that when the time comes, it will be approved.
We need a written permit, correct?
In April.
Yes,
So,
so we get a written permit. Thank you.
yes.
And also, in addition to that, we have a potable water solution.
Correct.
Okay, let's just say it that way, okay? And that we can agree that there's no other concerns.
Perfect.
Just say it like that, all right?
Okay. Moved by Councilman Beal, second by Councilwoman Bettina. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None, thank you very much. So every
Jessica-
project essentially moves forward except for a parking lot and a fence.
Did they give you any lead time on this?
On the
Pavilion.
kit, that is why this is really important for tonight. The lead time on the kit would be it coming the end of May, the beginning of June. We have to start camp on June 30th, so.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to at least get that rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I kept asking in the beginning, is there a time constraint because you lose 2 weeks?
Yeah, no, there is, it's order.
There is.
So we have options now. If we tabled it, we wouldn't have options. Now we have options.
Correct.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much.
Anything else?
Under new business, there's only one item, and that is to award the RFQ for engineering services for Wildwood Sewer District, for Midpoint Park Sewer District, for Fleetwood Sewer District, and the United Wappinger Water District, and award that RFQ to Lawrence Podgy, P.E., for the purposes of obtaining grants and making engineering proposals to improve.
I'll make that motion that we
infrastructure.
approve.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilwoman Bettina. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, thank you very much. If anyone is wondering what is in front of Mr. Ligori, those are all of those RFQs that came in today. I'd like to thank Deputy Town Clerk McConaughey for opening those up and processing them today. She left me to carry them in here, but that was not a problem. With that, I don't think that there's any further discussion to come before the town board. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Before we do that, let me just remind everyone that there's a burn ban in effect that
Yes.
went into effect by order of the governor early this year. Normally it goes in next week, right?
Yes.
But because of the relative humidity and the dry conditions, let's remind our neighbors there's no open burning, and let's be extra careful for those that smoke cigarettes and other things, that we're not flicking them out
And
of your
don't make
vehicle.
s'mores out in your
It
backyard.
actually went into effect yesterday. I had a neighbor
Yeah.
call me to tell me.
So we just have to remind our neighbors, because
Right.
not everybody knows.
Yep.
And as we saw last year, it was a little bit of a challenging season.
And just for point of clarification too, Councilman, that since we are a town of over 10,000 residents, that is automatically in our code, that effectively we do have a burn ban in the town. You're not supposed to be doing open burning, so that is why you will not be seeing an executive order from me. In comparison to other towns, it's essentially already in our code. So the governor's order is effectively a friendly reminder to the residents of the town of Wappinger not to open burn.
I do want to say one thing. I want to give a shout out to the EMS for the miraculous delivery of a baby at Chelsea Ridge. They did a
Yes.
fantastic job.
Yes, they did.
And,
Yes. They
thank them.
They
really,
did an
really
incredible
did.
job, and I want to say this, so often, the public safety call takers and dispatchers get left out, and in this particular case, we had a brand-new call taker
Nice. Wow.
handle that call, and
Nice.
essentially deliver that child over the phone as EMS was arriving on scene.
How wonderful.
which that chain of, childbirth chain that occurred will be recognized in September at the
When
Town of
we do, I
Wabasha
think.
First
Good.
Responder Awards. And for a brand-new call taker to have that opportunity, that's like a once-in-a-career opportunity
That's
to
wonderful.
happen. So we look forward to recognizing the EMS personnel and
Yes.
the public safety dispatcher and call taker for that work that they did to successfully assist with the delivery of that child. So thank you for mentioning
It's
that.
always nice to have something wonderful happen in the world today, so.
Yeah, and we often
was a nice
recognize traumatic incidents at
Yes.
that,
This
and it's
is-
going to be
This is wonderful.
refreshing to recognize
Yes.
a miracle of childbirth.
So
Thank you.
thank you.
Absolutely. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Moved by Councilwoman Bettina, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, folks.